Major General Grigsby, Command Sergeant Major Cornelison, Mr. Boyd, Mr. Dinkle, Mrs. Kolashevsky, Brigadier General Frank, distinguished troopers, the Honorable Mr. Roethlisberger, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Commanding General, 1st Infantry Division in Fort Riley, Major General Wayne W. Grigsby Jr., and the Command Sergeant Major, 1st Infantry Division in Fort Riley, Command Sergeant Major Joseph C. Cornelison, welcome to the April Retirement Ceremony. Each month, a ceremony is held to honor our military and Department of the Army civilian personnel who have served their country with distinction. Serving as the official party for today's ceremony is the Commanding General, 1st Infantry Division in Fort Riley, Major General Wayne W. Grigsby Jr., and the Command Sergeant Major, 1st Infantry Division in Fort Riley, Command Sergeant Major Joseph C. Cornelison. Units from left to right represented by their colors are the 1st Armored Brigade Combat Team, 1st Infantry Division, the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team, 1st Infantry Division, the Combat Aviation Brigade, 1st Infantry Division, the Division Artillery, 1st Infantry Division, the Sustainment Brigade, 1st Infantry Division. The installation and partner units are comprised of the United States Army Garrison, the Medical Activity Fort Riley, the Dental Activity Fort Riley. The case colors represent the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team currently deployed in support of Operation Spartan Shield. Please come forward at any time to take photographs of our retirees except during the playing of the national anthem. After years of commendable service to their country, every career soldier and Department of the Army civilian comes to a time when they put aside their attire and retire, either to a new profession or a well-deserved rest. In today's ceremony, the men and women of the 1st Infantry Division in Fort Riley will pay tribute to these retirees and their families who have helped ensure the defense of this great nation during the most momentous period of its history. We ask that you please stand for the invocation given by the 1st Infantry Division Chaplain, Chaplain Peter E. Johnson, and remain standing for the arrival of the official party, the singing of the national anthem by Specialist Kira McLean, and the 1st Infantry Division Army Band under the direction of Staff Sergeant William Knight.
Please join me in a word of prayer. Almighty God, it is with grateful hearts that we honor these men and women before us, soldiers and civilians, who have answered the call to serve their nation in both peacetime and war. We thank you for their dedicated and selfless service, and we ask that you would go before them now and richly bless them in the next chapter of their lives. May they always remember with pride and fondness that they served our great nation, our great army, and the Big Red One. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, the Commanding General, 1st Infantry Division in Fort Riley, Major General Wayne W. Grigsby Jr.
No, that's pretty neat, wasn't it? That's phenomenal. And she is a Big Red One soldier, right? Now, I just want to thank everybody for coming today. This is the most important thing I do each month, is coming here to either overwatch this or talk or whatever, but this is just very, very important. And I kind of changed it a little bit. I made general officers have to speak at these because I just think it's that important. Because we're all very grateful, especially us that get to this time in our careers. We know how we got here. I know. I could not have done this by myself. So Pat, thanks for coming. Pat Frank, DCGS, Sergeant Major for coming. And I don't care about Brigadier General Kolashevsky. I just thank Buffy for coming. Thank you very much for coming. She's getting ready. They're going to get ready to depart here in a little bit, and she's done so much for the division, this post, and the Army. So, just great. Thanks for everybody coming today. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, friends and family of the best division, United States Army, the Big Red One. I am so happy to be here with you today. And guess what? My name is Grigsby, and I'm a Big Red One soldier. And it's an honor to speak in front of such a distinguished audience. The men and women leaving active service today have given a total of 372 years of service. 372 years. Our retirees have held jobs like mechanic and ammunition technician, secretary and command sergeant major, court reporter, and an engineer. They all have big dreams. Some want to open up their own businesses, others will go to school and expand their opportunities, so others will go to their retirement homes and enjoy time with their friends and families. Their hard work and dedication has earned them all the good things that life has to offer, and I truly hope from my heart that each of them reaches this dream. But first and foremost, you will always be great leaders that are competent in their craft, and you guys are great teammates. I want to talk to the retirees now. You're about to join the ranks of over 2 million military and federal retirees who continue to serve their communities across the greatest nation in the world, our country, United States of America. As you end your service, I want you to think about what you have done for your country. In the last 38 years, which is the number of years the longest serving retiree has served, the Army has undergone many changes and engaged in conflict and combat and battles around the world. Many times our politicians and the media say that wars will be short. That's one of General Milley's greatest myths. That wars will be short, will be in and out, right? Yeah. That they will have little impact and that they can be won with few casualties from a great distance using these platforms called ships and airplanes. The soldiers in this room know the real deal. That ain't about that. Our nation sent our young men and women into harm's way to preserve peace and act as the beacon of democracy. The soldier retired today went through several operations, like the first one, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. I was the company commander. 25-year anniversary was this year. We liberated Kuwait from Iraq invasion in just 100 hours. We kicked their butt. 148 American casualties, however. Then Haiti, Operation Uphold Democracy, 94-95. Restored order and conducted humanitarian missions, allowed democratic elected leaders to return to that country. Bosnia and Kosovo. Some of us in this room served in Kosovo. NATO involvement. Part of the big team. A lot of atrocities remind us how to partner with our local forces in COIN. My belief is those that participated in Bosnia and Kosovo really were the best ones that went into the Iraq COIN mission. It was simply the same, except the conditions has changed. We weren't getting blown up in Kosovo, but we definitely were having to fight the same way we had to in Kosovo. So the conditions are a little bit different, but I think we learned the most. Afghanistan, 2001 to present. Remember, wars are short, right? We defeated the Taliban, denied use of the country as a staging base for terrorists, over 2,800 dead, and over 23,000 wounded. Returned hope to the Afghan people, and we're still there conducting security sector reform with our interagency teammates. Iraq, 2003 to 2011, and now we're back in there 2014. This division was the first one to come back. Wasn't the 82nd, it was us. We defeated a brutal dictator, 4,809 killed, over 33,000 wounded, still in Iraq helping the Iraqi people take control of their government and fight terrorism. It's expanding a little bit to Syria now. Building capacity missions, all the other missions we've done, the diverse mission, building capacity so local forces can fight in their regions. We've been in Africa, the Middle East, South America, Eastern Bloc nations, truly worldwide. This is a new way of war. Our soldiers also conducted countless humanitarian missions during this time, helping people recover from everything from tornadoes and wildfires to Hurricane Katrina. We almost had one last night. The soldiers retiring today and their brothers and sisters in arms did not hesitate to run the danger. They did the right thing. They were and always will be brave, responsible, and on point for our nation, and I'm grateful. We also have one dedicated civilian retiree with us today, Nita Miller. Is Nita Miller out there? Where's she at? Stand up, Nita. this place, it is a leadership factory, but we develop both military and civilian leaders together as one, and that is important. She served 38 years at administrative posts at the hospital and the Logistics Readiness Center. She and countless other civilian employees are the continuity when our soldiers head off to war. They are the ones that keep this place running and make sure that we are ready to meet any challenge. The civilian leadership that we have at Fort Riley is the best I've seen in 32 years, and they are the continuity, because people like me and Sergeant Major, we come and go, man. But they're always there, bringing on the new guys. You know, these short guys, a bunch of energy come in, you go, oh, here we go again, right? You know, but you're always there with the even temperament. Greatly appreciated. Nina, thank you very much. You always remember your time in the service to the greatest army in the world, and I hope that you will finally remember your time with the nation's oldest, most storied division, the best division, United States Army, the Fighting 1st Infantry Division. Our retirees are leaders first. They spent years teaching, coaching, and mentoring our young soldiers and civilian leaders. That is your legacy. You taught soldiers what right looks like, non-commissioned officers. You spent time away from your families. Thank you very much. Moves and deployments. I can't imagine how many moves are out there. You created the next generation of Army leaders. Thank you very much for that. That is your legacy. And you ensured that our installation ran smoothly to support our soldiers and their families. Our retirees ensured that our Army will be in good hands for the years to come. They did their part to pass the torch of freedom to our younger generation, the millennials. I know that's been a challenge, but you guys have done a good job in passing that to the millennials. I have 5 of them that kind of live with me, so I understand. Now it is your time, though. Military and federal retirees have a host of options and skills that their civilian peers do not have. You come with education, military education, college, certification, experience, your intuition. You come with all that. Your transition assistance programs have helped you. Interview skills, resumes, employment assistance. Your cultural understanding, and the most important thing that I think you bring to this country, and that what this country needs more than anything, you bring what? Leadership. That's what we need. There is no help coming. The only thing that's going to fix this country, or fix us, or fix our Army, or fix problems we have, is leadership. And you have that in spades, 372 years of leadership. There are many ways to stay connected to the military. Stay involved in professional organizations. Continue to mentor our young soldiers. Stay active in the veterans organizations. Remember that you all are soldiers for life. You have the skills and talents to make any organization better. Take your experiences out into our communities and into our nation. You guys are really our best recruiters as we bring the best and brightest back in. You are exactly the types of servant leaders that employees want. Continue to serve as members of the Federal Service, as business, community leaders, loyal friends, and neighbors. John Adams, second President of the United States, once said, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. Each of you is a leader. Remember that as you carry on with service in the next phase of your life. Look, I really want each and one of you to enjoy the rest of your life. Thank you very much for your years of service. I mean, it's just amazing. I'm getting there. You know, this is my last job. I'll be coming up here. I'm going to do it right here for Raleigh, too. This is the best place to train, live, deploy from, and retire from. I mean, it's a pretty neat place. But I just want to thank each and every one of you for what you do. And most importantly, I want to thank your families and your spouses for what they have done. The numerous moves and all this stuff. Now, you move on to your next stage of life. You've earned it. That movie in Saving Private Ryan, you guys have earned it. Right? So enjoy the rest of your lives. My name is Grigsby. I'm a Big Red One soldier, and thank you so much for all your years of service. Duty first.
At this time, Command Sergeant Major Cornelison will join Major General Grigsby for the awards portion of the ceremony. Chief Warrant Officer 3, Galen R. Crable, is retiring after 20 years of military service. Chief Warrant Officer 3 Crable is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as the Production Control and Maintenance Officer, Foxtrot Company, 1st Aviation Reconnaissance Battalion, 1st Aviation Regiment, 1st Combat Aviation Brigade, 1st Infantry Division. Chief Warrant Officer 3 Crable and his wife Heather have 2 children, Jacob and Jessica. The Crable family will retire in Topeka, Kansas, where he plans to seek employment with the Army Aviation and Missile Command at Fort Riley, Kansas, while raising exotic bighorn sheep on his farm. Today, Chief Warrant Officer 3 Crable is receiving the Meritorious Service Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement and a Certificate of Appreciation. All Army certificates of retirement presented today are signed by the Army Chief of Staff, General Mark A. Milley, and all certificates of appreciation presented today are signed by the President of the United States, Mr. Barack Obama. Chief Warrant Officer 3 Crable is also receiving a folded American flag. Major General Grigsby is presenting an American flag and division coin to each retiree as a token of appreciation on behalf of a grateful nation for their selfless service in the defense of our liberty. Each retiree will also receive a lapel pin that they can wear on their civilian clothes.
John Miller, Chief of Staff. Great Chief of Staff. Wow. Let's get a picture of this, Brett. You need a Wagner number or something?
His wife Heather receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. Today's roses are provided by the Society of the 1st Infantry Division.
Hey, a round of applause, Alex.
By order of the Secretary of the Army, Chief Warrant Officer 3 Galen R. Crable, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Warrant Officer 3 Galen R. Crable, retired, and Mrs. Crable. Chief Warrant Officer 3 Leonard Aaron Espinoza is retiring after 20 years of military service. Chief Warrant Officer 3 Espinoza is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as the Division Information Assurance Manager, Signal Company, Division Headquarters and Headquarters Battalion, 1st Infantry Division. The Espinoza family will retire in Pueblo, Colorado, where he plans to enjoy the great outdoors of the American West with his wife while continuing to administer cybersecurity and information technology enterprise services in the private sector. Today, Chief Warrant Officer 3 Espinoza is receiving the Legion of Merit Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation.
Miller.
His wife, Allison P. Ernst, receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Chief Warrant Officer 3 Leonard Aaron Espinoza, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Warrant Officer 3 Leonard Aaron Espinoza, retired, and Miss Ernst. Command Sergeant Major John R. Jones is retiring after 27 years of military service. Command Sergeant Major Jones is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as Command Sergeant Major, Headquarters and Headquarters Company, 1st Battalion 16th Infantry Regiment, 1st Armored Brigade Combat Team, 1st Infantry Division. Command Sergeant Major Jones will retire in Kansas, where he plans to take long walks.
You can do that, can't you?
Today, Command Sergeant Major Jones is receiving the Legion of Merit Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and the Certificate of Appreciation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Command Sergeant Major John R. Jones, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list.
This Command Sergeant Major had a lot of patience with brand new division commander always coming down to the battalion, so, I mean, great soldier right here, greatly appreciated. Round of applause.
First Sergeant Kenneth T. Gamblin is retiring after 27 years of military service. First Sergeant Gamblin is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as the Inspector General Non-Commissioned Officer, Headquarters and Support Company, Division Headquarters and Headquarters Battalion, 1st Infantry Division. First Sergeant Gamblin and his wife Andrea have 2 children, Andrew and daughter-in-law Carrie. The Gamblin family will retire in Kansas City, Missouri, where he plans to work for Honeywell Federal Manufacturing and Technologies. Today, First Sergeant Gamblin is receiving the Meritorious Service Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. His wife Andrea receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, First Sergeant Kenneth T. Gamblin, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, First Sergeant Kenneth T. Gamblin, retired, and Mrs. Gamblin. First Sergeant Eric E. Brewer is retiring after 20 years of military service. First Sergeant Brewer is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as the Senior Network Operations Non-Commissioned Officer, Headquarters and Support Company, Division Headquarters and Headquarters Battalion, 1st Infantry Division. First Sergeant Brewer and his wife Unka have 2 children, Damian and Caitlin. The Brewer family will retire in Manhattan, Kansas, where he plans to spend time with family and friends and go wherever life takes him. Today, First Sergeant Brewer is receiving the Meritorious Service Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. His wife, Unka, receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, First Sergeant Eric E. Brewer, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, First Sergeant Eric E. Brewer, retired, and Mrs. Brewer. Sergeant First Class Richard L. Saucier Jr. is retiring after 23 years of military service. Sergeant First Class Saucier is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as the Operations Non-Commissioned Officer, 977th Military Police Company, 97th Military Police Battalion, 89th Military Police Brigade. Sergeant First Class Saucier and his wife Mary have 3 children, Marcus, Ashley, and Allie. The Saucier family will retire in Muskegon, Michigan, where he plans to reconnect with family and work in the human resources field to utilize his master's degree in business administration. Today, Sergeant First Class Saucier is receiving the Meritorious Service Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. Although not present, his wife Mary receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Sergeant First Class Richard L. Saucier Jr., having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant First Class Richard L. Saucier, Jr., retired. Sergeant First Class Garrett J. Harms is retiring after 24 years of military service. Sergeant First Class Harms is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as Senior Court Reporter, Headquarters Support Company, Division Headquarters and Headquarters Battalion, 1st Infantry Division. Sergeant First Class Harms and his wife Karen have 2 children, Megan and Adam. The Harms family will retire in Fredericksburg, Virginia, where he plans to seek employment as a paralegal within the government sector. Today, Sergeant First Class Harms is receiving the Meritorious Service Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. His wife Karen receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Sergeant First Class Garrett J. Harms, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant First Class Garrett J. Harms, retired, and Mrs. Harms. Sergeant First Class Leslie R. Perry is retiring after 23 years of military service. Sergeant First Class Perry is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as the Medical Operations Sergeant, Division Surgeon Office, Intelligence and Sustainment Company, Division Headquarters and Headquarters Battalion, 1st Infantry Division. Sergeant First Class Perry and his wife Kimberly have 2 children, Daniel and Matthew. The Perry family will retire in Lowell, Indiana, where he plans to attend nursing school. Today, Sergeant First Class Perry is receiving the Meritorious Service Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. His wife Kimberly receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Sergeant First Class Leslie R. Perry, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant First Class Leslie R. Perry, retired, and Mrs. Perry. Sergeant First Class John C. Perkins is retiring after 25 years of military service. Sergeant First Class Perkins is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as the non-commissioned officer in charge, Department of Pharmacy, Irwin Army Community Hospital, Fort Riley, Kansas. Sergeant First Class Perkins and his wife Veronica have 3 children, Anna, Ricardo, and Christian. The Perkins family will retire in Manhattan, Kansas, where he plans to work as a pharmacy technician at Irwin Army Community Hospital, Fort Riley, Kansas, and start a small business running a food truck. Today, Sergeant First Class Perkins is receiving the Meritorious Service Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. His wife Veronica receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Sergeant First Class John C. Perkins, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant First Class John C. Perkins, retired, and Mrs. Perkins. Sergeant First Class Matthew J. Hewitt is retiring after 20 years of military service. Sergeant First Class Hewitt is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as Motor Sergeant, 526th Quartermaster Combined Supply Company, 541st Combat Service Supply Battalion, 1st Sustainment Brigade, 1st Infantry Division. Sergeant First Class Hewitt and his wife Zur have 2 children, Ashley and Lucas. The Hewitt family will retire in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where he plans to attend Universal Technical Institute in Illinois to be a diesel technician and continue a career with Oshkosh Defense or Navstar. Today, Sergeant First Class Hewitt is receiving the Meritorious Service Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. His wife Zur receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Sergeant First Class Matthew J. Hewitt, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant First Class Matthew J. Hewitt, retired, and Mrs. Hewitt. Sergeant First Class Jonathan B. Kincaid is retiring after 20 years of military service. Sergeant First Class Kincaid is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as the Brigade Safety Non-Commissioned Officer, Headquarters and Headquarters Company, 1st Combat Aviation Brigade, 1st Infantry Division. Sergeant First Class Kincaid has 3 children, Aaron, Anthony, and Andrew. The Kincaid family will retire in Lansing, Michigan, where he plans to seek employment as a financial consultant. Today, Sergeant First Class Kincaid is receiving the Meritorious Service Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Sergeant First Class Jonathan B. Kincaid, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list.
Great.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant First Class Jonathan B. Kincaid, retired. Staff Sergeant Richard M. Swader is retiring after 20 years of military service. Staff Sergeant Swader is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as Operations Sergeant, Bravo Company, 82nd Engineer Battalion, 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team, 1st Infantry Division. Staff Sergeant Swader and his wife Stacy have 2 children, Dakota and Ridley. The Swader family will retire in Wakefield, Kansas, where he plans to spend time with family, hunt, fish, and think about working again sometime in the future. Today, Staff Sergeant Swader is receiving the Meritorious Service Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. His wife Stacy receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Staff Sergeant Richard M. Swader, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, Staff Sergeant Richard M. Swader, retired, and Mrs. Swader. Staff Sergeant Jamie R. Sessions is retiring after 20 years of military service. Staff Sergeant Sessions is commended for his outstanding service to the nation, culminating with his assignment as Platoon Sergeant, Alpha Company, 601st Aviation Support Battalion, 1st Combat Aviation Brigade, 1st Infantry Division. Staff Sergeant Sessions and his wife Simona have 5 children, Jamarcus, Chantel, Nadia, Zane, and Jamie. The Sessions family will retire in Junction City, Kansas, where he plans to continue pursuing his degree in business management at Phoenix University, while also planning to work as a contractor overseas in Afghanistan, Iraq, or Kuwait. Today, Staff Sergeant Sessions is receiving the Army Commendation Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. His wife Simona receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation and a single red rose for her dedication to her husband and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Staff Sergeant Jamie R. Sessions, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, Staff Sergeant Jamie R. Sessions, retired, and Mrs. Sessions. Sergeant Cynthia A. Barber is retiring after 20 years of military service. Sergeant Barber is commended for her outstanding service to the nation, culminating with her assignment as Ammunition Sergeant, Headquarters and Headquarters Company, Special Troops Battalion, 1st Sustainment Brigade, 1st Infantry Division. Sergeant Barber and her husband, Sean O'Day, have 1 child, Emily. The Barber family will retire in Copperas Cove, Texas, where she owns her own house and plans to go to school for medical billing and coding. Today, Sergeant Barber is receiving the Army Commendation Medal, the Department of the Army Certificate of Retirement, and a Certificate of Appreciation. Her husband, Sean, receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation for his dedication to his wife and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Sergeant Cynthia A. Barber, having qualified for retirement, is released from active duty and placed on the retired list. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant Cynthia A. Barber, retired, and Mr. O'Day. Our final retiree that we honor today is Mrs. Nita Miller, who is retiring after 38 years of federal civil service. Mrs. Miller is commended for her outstanding service to the nation, culminating with her assignment as Secretary, Logistics Readiness Center, Fort Riley, Kansas. Mrs. Miller and her husband, Dr. Farrell Miller, have 1 child, Bradley, and 1 granddaughter, Cammie. The Miller family will retire in Junction City, Kansas, where she plans to finish writing a cookbook, scrapbook, work out, exercise more often, play the piano more, travel, and spend more time with her son and granddaughter in Kansas City. Today, Mrs. Miller is receiving the Commander's Award for Civilian Service Medal and a Certificate of Appreciation.
This is really the strength of Fort Riley, our civilian leadership, and all the sacrifices that they do. I mean, this is huge, because they're the continuity that keeps this place going as we come and go. So for 38 years of service, I mean, this is pretty neat.
Her husband receives the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation for his dedication to his wife and the nation. By order of the Secretary of the Army, Mrs. Nita Miller, having qualified for retirement, is released from active federal civil service. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Nita Miller, retired, and Dr. Miller. Please be seated. Two songs will now be performed, Old Soldiers Never Die and Auld Lang Syne, as a tribute to our retirees. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the playing and singing of the Big Red One song and the Army songs. The words are printed in your program.
Always the first to thirst for a fight. No foe shall
Ladies and gentlemen, the retirees and their spouses will form a receiving line to your front. Please wait until they are all in position before coming forward to offer your congratulations. Please join us for today's reception, sponsored by the Fort Riley and Central Kansas chapter of the Association of the United States Army. I'm Staff Sergeant Lee Sanders of the Fort Riley Sergeant Audie Murphy Club, and this concludes the ceremony. Thank you for attending.